Runners with the Tennessee Education Association, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak with you for a few minutes today about this issue of repeal of the PN law. And some of the comments I make probably will be repetitive of some of the points that have already been made, and I apologize for that. The PN, the Professional Negotiations Law, was passed in 1978. It's a very misunderstood process. It is not traditional industrial style collective bargaining. It's a process that allows the practitioners, Tennessee's teachers, to sit down with school boards in a very orderly fashion to discuss various items of mutual concerns. And these issues discussed are much more than economic issues, and that's already been pointed out, but I think it bears repeating. They include a wide range of topics on teacher working conditions, which are, in fact, and I think you need to understand this, the working conditions of teachers are the learning conditions of their students. And it's unfortunate that teachers have had to negotiate, and this has been pointed out, to get things like adequate textbooks for their students. The law that passed 35 years ago or so is really a very conservative law. It's a law which does not, as has already been pointed out, permit work stoppages. It does not force membership in any organization. It does not collect dues from non-members. It is not a forum for confrontation. It is a forum for problem solving. And with very few exceptions, the process has worked very well. And currently we have 92 school systems in this state out of 136 that negotiate with teacher organizations, and that covers, and this is an important point, about 90% of the teachers in this state work under contracts. So I feel it's important that I and our organization bring to you some of the concerns about why teachers are so strongly concerned about repeal of this process. In their view, this bill turns back the clock 35 years. The teachers that I know truly are professionals. And they view this bill, and I think rightfully so, as an attack on their professionalism. They view this bill as saying, you've jumped through a lot of hoops to become a teacher, and we entrust our children to you, but we don't trust you enough as a professional to welcome your opinion. And when you attempt to silence the voice of the teachers, the very people who really make our schools work, you strike at the very heart of the education profession. Now, there was reference last week to a moral failure. Now, if there's been a moral failure in this state as it relates to education, it's that we, and I include a lot of people in this, we have sat back and watched basic respect for teachers deteriorate to the point that it has deteriorated. And this bill only moves that process of lack of respect forward. Now, as to the amendment, let me say, first of all, we truly appreciate the substantial number of legislators who have taken a position that it's not in anyone's best interest to repeal this law. And we truly appreciate that there's a significant number of members within a particular caucus who have said, we want to come up with something short of repealing this law. We have never said, as a Tennessee Education Association, that we think this law is perfect. We are always open to talk about any issue. But as been pointed out, we were not part of any compromise. This was not something that was discussed with us. And so we have to point out some weaknesses within the amendment to House Bill 130. There is an upside to it, and the upside is it prevents the draconian act of repealing the law. And the other issues which have already been mentioned, and I'll very briefly mention, pulling principals out of the bargaining unit, severely limiting the working conditions definition, taking dues deduction from a mandatory subject of bargaining to saying you can negotiate it, but you don't have to. Now, and it's already been said, but I got to reiterate, that's nothing just but mean-spirited to take away dues deduction, which is basically flipping a key on a computer to say that this can happen. So, those are mainly our concerns. The issue around, that Chairman Fitzhugh raised, around dealing with multiple organizations. I would like to hear the School Boards Association explain how they're going to deal with that. I mean, they're going to have groups coming to them, and they're going to be spending more of their time dealing with employee groups and their problems than they are dealing with running the school system. So, again, I appreciate you indulging me, and I'll bring this to a close, but just with some general comments. I mean, I've been up here a long time, and I've seen a lot happen up here. And I will say to you that I truly respect that the political spectrum is broad. And I'm not saying that I'm always on the right side or the left side. But I will say that I am convinced that you don't make good law on the extremes of that spectrum. You make good law in the middle. You make good law when reasonable, thoughtful, respectful lawmakers sit down to try to solve problems and not try to tear something down. And I think it is bad when some people would seize a political moment in time to try to run roughshod over people. And that's what's happening here. And also, as a former teacher and a constant student of American government, I love American government. I'm just fascinated by those people who like to invoke the name of the founders. They invoke the name of the founders, and they were great individuals. They formed the basis for this country. But those very people railed against the tyranny of the majority. They would never support the centralization of power and the diminishing of individual rights and an effort that would take away the voice of the public school teachers of this state. And with that said, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for indulging me.